for you today. What is your story of a bad CFI, a bad flight instructor? If you've had a bad flight instructor, we'd like to hear about it because they are out there. How do you get a bad flight instructor? Well, there's not a lot of people that enjoy teaching. So there is a vast difference between those who enjoy teaching and those that don't. And unfortunately, the students are the unfortunate recipients sometimes of that in how they are taught. I want to share some bad CFI stories from other people right here. Someone wrote, I think making your student fly through a thunderstorm is pretty high on the bad CFI list. I would agree with that. There have been occasions now with Instagram, Snapchat, and all these other social media apps where flight instructors are actually making fun of their students, and that's not cool at all. It's pretty disrespectful. Let's continue. I'm reading this from another contributor. He says that one of my first lessons with my very first CFI, and he was the head CFI, looking back on it, he seemed like he hated instructing and was only doing it to work on his own hours and flying other planes in the fleet. That's something that you're going to come across, unfortunately. You're not going to get some individuals who actually take the time to explain the lesson well to you or to be available to have the time to answer all of your questions. They just want to get into the plane and they want to go. I experienced this myself as a younger pilot where I remember an instructor once asked me, all right, give me a soft field takeoff. And I said, I haven't flown this aircraft in a month. Can you talk me through it? He didn't even tell me how to do a soft field takeoff. He just gave me a negative mark and that was it. So that was one of my bad flight instructor experiences, but there are so many here. I'm just going down a list. And if you have a couple you'd like to contribute, please let me know. Here's another one. I took over from this instructor because our chief pilot thought he wasn't getting his student finished up quick enough. I was reviewing the student's logbook for his progress and saw that he had solo time and cross-country solo time dated before he even had his medical certificate. Is that crazy? So we have a fair number of bad instructors. It's really tough for new students to determine a bad instructor from a good instructor. And we need to talk about that more. There's so many comments here that I'm looking at. And some people have had some bad experiences with their flight instructors. Have you? Please let me know. Here's another comment. Here it is. I can't top the Snapchat CFI who made fun of his student. That's terrible. But my first chief pilot came close. Arrogant as hell, somehow talked himself into a chief pilot position. He was only 24 years old with 500 hours and he's a chief pilot and not a very good instructor. OMG. The school was sketchy as hell and probably scared away non-desperate people who were actually qualified. It was my first paid flying job. The money was good for a brand new CFI. Again, because they couldn't keep people. Anyway, on my interview flight, he gave me what's probably the worst advice I've ever received. Again, we're talking bad flight instructors. If you have one you'd like to share, let me know. I'm going to continue. Here's what he said. Teach your students the bare minimum possible. Are you kidding me? It'll save them money. Well, that's true. I knew it was sketchy and I kept thinking I need to walk away. But I didn't. A few months later, he ran the airplane out of fuel with a student on board. They both died, crashing a mile short of the runway. They overflew fields that they could have put the thing down in. They may have wrecked the airplane, but they might have survived. Fast forward 5 years or so, I'm at a friend's wedding. Someone says, oh, you need to meet so-and-so, the wife of a friend or something. She's a pilot too. Turns out, this woman had worked for the same sketchy flight school. I left. She got forced to sign a student off to solo who she didn't think was ready. The kid taxis out and instantly hits a fuel truck. Again, so we're talking bad flight instructor. I've had several in my career. Have you? Do you want to share your bad flight instructor experiences? Saying bad things about students is one of the worst things you can do. And in this age of social media, we have several instructors who've been doing that. That's not cool. I'm going down a list of bad instructor experiences. Here's another one. Holy hell, is that school still around? Sounds like the word needs to spread faster. Another comment. Don't mind me, just a former 5-year CFI looking through the replies in utter dread, because if any of my students thought I was bad as a CFI, I think I would cry. Now there's an instructor who actually cares what their students think. I do too. Here's another comment from someone about a bad flight instructor. The CFI randomly started flying his plane to the school rather than driving. Didn't want to explain why. Well, it turns out he got a DUI. He couldn't drive, but he was okay to fly. Is that crazy? Let's continue. Here's another comment. This person says, not too long after getting my license, I bought a plane and had to go get it. I needed an instructor with me because I had no retractable time. And it was a long flight. My regular instructor wasn't available, so I got one from a nearby flight school. I bought his airline ticket. We went to pick up the plane. The weather was sketchy, but he still wanted to go. I was feeling uncomfortable, but he still wanted to go. I never want to fly with that instructor again. That's something else. It's really hard for students to speak up when they're uncomfortable, and it's okay. You need to. But it's hard when you're intimidated by your flight instructor. Let's look at more of these. There's so many. Okay, it's a Turbo Arrow. It's a great plane. I did my check ride in it. And I had to change instructors. Here's another comment. My single engine commercial instructor was pretty high and mighty about himself. Have you ever met a high and mighty flight instructor? I have. He would consistently tell me that I needed to just make maneuvers happen without really taking a second to explain how to make a maneuver happen within standards or what mistakes I was making. I've experienced that as well. A lot of these guys and gals, they just want to get their flight time. They don't enjoy teaching. He'd just show me and expect me to get it right. He also would only schedule me for a long cross country and never any of the shorter lessons we could do in between. So I went almost a month and a half without flying, even though there were some great days. The real icing on the cake was during a stressful day in the pattern. I'm reading the story, bad flight instructor experiences. That's what we're talking about here, bad flight instructors. I came from the outside of the, oh, you know what? I may have to end and come right back. Thanks for watching.